Welcome to another episode of Raven Conversations. I'm Joe C. Mandel, State Public Affairs Officer for the Washington National Guard. And today I'm joined by Sergeant Ed O. and Specialist Nate Hean, who they both work at the DUOM, but that's not what they're here to talk about in their full-time jobs. They are actually part of the Washington National Guard's Marksmanship team, and you're here to talk about the Marksmanship team, how you got involved, and what it, how others can get involved. So I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so intro background yourself. We'll start with you, Ed.
Sergeant O, I did originally time in active duty. I have like a lot of MOSs. I was a parachute rigger, a chaplain assistant, and then air defense, and now I'm GO and came in the Guard. So,
yeah.
For me, I was just working a dead-end job, like give or take 5 years ago, and then one of my old coach's son, or nephew joined the Army for his job, and I was like, I might as well just look into the National Guard because they have IT MOSs too, and then that's how I got in.
Yeah. So how'd you learn about the Guard?
When I was getting out, I honestly didn't have a plan. So I was like, having the Guard will give me some opportunities more than likely. Talk to a recruiter, and then just join through them. And now I'm here. Yeah.
Same thing. Pretty much just found a recruiter and went, right? Yeah. Of all your MOSs, which one's your favorite?
So
you can be honest. The GOINT's awesome.
GOINT is okay. I shouldn't say that. GOINT is good. Air defense by far my favorite because the people I worked with in air defense at First Corps kind of really changed, honestly, my entire perspective of the Army. They were some of the best people, I think the best people I've worked with since I've been in.
Yeah, when I was the MICO commander, I had GOINT underneath me, and it was fantastic. It was kind of cool to watch. But I imagine as a GOINTer, it gets a little boring sitting in a skiff and staring at a screen all day. So
it is. It's a difficult MOS to practice due to the technicality of it. But
yeah. So now we're here to talk MOSs or your full-time jobs at DUOM, but you're both part of the Marksmanship team for the Washington Army National Guard. Mm-hmm. For those at home, what is the Marksmanship team?
So the Marksmanship team, in concept, is is really a part of lethality, right? And lethality, just as I kind of define it, is simply as possible is our ability to kill people as fast as we can, right, as accurately as we can. So where the Marksmanship team kind of comes in is, the way I view it is kind of to push the way the Army thinks about shooting, right? Just being honest. I kind of feel like we do a lot of archaic, old kind of style shooting that is falling way behind what I see in the modern industry nowadays, particularly as a guy who shoots competition outside the military. So it's a place for us to get our ideas together, to not only represent the Washington Guard out in other competitions, but I really believe, for me, the core principle is to push Marksmanship team and evolve it and kind of bring that down to all levels.
Yeah. So how'd you guys get involved with it?
So the way I remember it was I didn't really get into competition shooting until I started working at DUOM, and then O came off at AT. And then we met, and then we started talking about shooting, and then I came to find out he actually goes out and competes, so then I started joining him with that. And then we one day just talked about how there was a marksmanship team back in the days, and then for the longest, I think it was give or take a year and a half, we were trying to find a POC who can get us on the right track to bring that back. And then eventually, during one of the SRPs, I forgot the major's name, but we were at MedCom, and he came through SRP, and I believe he was from 205th, and he got us on the right track with Chief Androsky.
Yeah. Everything leads back to Jack Androsky.
He does. He's a very, very passionate person.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you mentioned kind of different styles of shooting, how the Army's kind of gone a little archaic. Most of us shoot, just a basic IWQ on a once a year, right? How is what you guys do with marksmanship just different from that?
So outside of the shooting, the kind of competitions that are set up by the National Guard Marksmanship Training Center, the biggest thing is the civilian side. So a lot of people don't know that the civilians actually are far better shooters than almost anybody I've met in the military, just being honest.
Yep.
Because what they do is they set up these competitions, and there's multiple types of it, right? One is USPSA, IDPA 3-gun. Some of these may be familiar, some of them out there. And what they do is they think of marksmanship as a sport, a game, science, whatever we want to call it. So they define marksmanship to them as two principles. And I think it's only two principles that matter, which is speed and accuracy. So they go out there, they develop stages, they kind of form these communities, and then they push each other to shoot as fast as possible, as accurately as they can. And because of that, there's a lot of stuff that's come from that. Honestly, I believe the military is downwind of these competitive communities. I've seen a lot of stuff from that community come down. One is LPVOs, which is low power variable optics, right? The C-clamp grip that everyone uses now. So kind of, when I see the dynamic shooting these civilians do, and these are not guys who are trained or in uniform. My good friend Michael, he is a pharmacist, and I have yet to beat this guy in a match. And he has never, ever put on a uniform. So I see kind of how we as a military practice marksmanship from combat arms to even support units, and it's just it's so dry. It's very static. And the way they kind of try to, I think, account for that is by adding exercises to it. And the problem I have with that is if we're practicing marksmanship, we're practicing marksmanship. If you're going to have me go do a 2-mile run and kettle swings and stuff like that, man, I could go do a PT test.
Yeah.
Right? If we're going to practice this, kind of think outside the box and push the limits a little bit, right? Set up stages, look up drills that are outside of, anti-body armor or whatever is in the book that's been put out by the military. Be more dynamic. And that's kind of what I mean by the military is archaic. It's just too static, and then especially, and what annoys me the most, compared to the civilian world, right? The side we kind of look at and say, well, they don't know, right? We do this for a living. Well, they do this part-time, and they're still kind of somehow surpassed us in that. And I think and I'm already seeing it happening, right? A good example is 3rd Special Forces Group, I believe at Bragg. They host a 3-gun competition called Duskin. It's invite only, right? So they're kind of getting into that. I've seen a lot of old guys who are really cool action guys advocate for this stuff. So I do believe there's a change, but it's not happening fast enough. And I think the way we kind of help with that change is bringing awareness about it. And yeah, that's kind of what I mean by that, right?
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, on a past episode, we talked to Sniper in the 3 of the 161, and he brought up competitions, and he said these competition shoots, it's the same thing they see there. There are people that are not military that are at these shoots that are much better than military members, because it's not just a hobby; it's something they just constantly continue to do, and they go to these shoots. And you guys recently were at a competition. What kind of, every state has a team, it sounds like. Yeah. What did you guys do at the competitions?
So so there's 2 types I kind of did, one for active duty and National Guard. The National Guard side recently was the Winston P as well as the Max 6. What we did there is we did multiple drills. Most of them were static. And they ranged from rifles out to 600 to pistols at 25, shooting at kind of bullseye targets. Many differentiating things. It was a good competition, I think. And Winston P and Max 6 were similar in that aspect. I still believe, though, that they suffer from the problem of what I say of being very static.
Yeah.
Right. But it's kind of what it entailed. So yeah, that's what we've seen so far. I think there's another one we are trying to do, if possible, is AFSAM, which is kind of this international shooting cup that we've seen. We were there. It was happening while we were there for Winston P. And there was like British soldiers, I believe New Zealanders, even probably people from the Nordic countries. So yeah.
Yeah. And we're not talking the old M16, M4. We're talking a completely different weaponry, right? When you guys are shooting for marksmanship.
So civilian side, we don't use any of our issued gear. Now, I would love to, and I've heard some discussions about this, and I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, is what I would love to see is soldiers maybe being able to draw weapons and ammo and go shoot a comp, right? It's very safe. It's going to be great training, I think, and it's like kind of mixes it up for them just randomly doing maybe an IWQ. But yeah, for the Winston P and all that, we did use military weaponry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then I imagine when you go IWQ with your unit, it's much different, right, for you guys when you're there at the range.
You want to go? So don't let my scores talk for my ability to shoot. Because target transitions and all that, target acquisition, I'm fine with, but I just have trouble remembering my holdovers. So, but I do completely fine on civilian side because, like, out of like 60 or 70, I'm always somewhere in the middle. I've only done like 6 or 7 matches, so I still have room to improve. But we did take out a few NCOs to one of the civilian matches, and it was a big eye opener for them. Yeah. I won't name drop them, but they did admit it was a big eye
I will,
opener.
don't worry. But about the IWQ, sir, yeah, it makes it easier. All these skill sets that are now kind of in the forefront, which was the whole point of revamped IWQ, are now much easier because it's something I practice in an even more difficult kind of environment, I believe, than the IWQ. So because of that, of course, it's easier, not accounting environmental factors and stuff like that. And I think more importantly for the IWQ is it helps me, especially when doing PMI, it helps me understand how to break down aspects of marksmanship into a simple form that people can understand, right? Especially because I'm an intel guy, right? I don't work with ground pounders. Mm-hmm. They don't shoot very often. A lot of them don't shoot at all. And it helps me say, okay, well, I know how I started off. How can I take these principles and break it down? Because what I find a lot in these PMIs and stuff like that is they just regurgitate stuff, right? And they just read what they already know. Mm-hmm. And what I say about that is, listen, man, if you're just going to come here and read a manual off to me, I can literally grab a monkey and have him do the same thing, right? I need to know, especially for these guys, you need to be able to break this down and teach it to a 5th grader. Yeah. Simplify it. That is what you are here to do as a teacher. If you're here to tell war stories, which is what happens a lot of times, war stories like, oh, well, I think you should do this because this is what I did. Listen, people are going to take this the wrong way. I am not in any way kind of condescending on people's deployments. You went and did it. I did not, right? That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm just saying is that if you're going to be teaching stuff, you need to be able to teach it in an aspect of a technical manner, not based on stories, right? We are doing this because this happens as a result. Yeah. And it's kind of helped me think of it that way. So because of that, the test, kind of the stuff I did at 81st, doing PMI and stuff like that has been pretty positive. But I think more than just scoring well in the PMI, the teaching, or scoring well in the IWQ, the teaching in the PMI has been the best part that's come out of all this shooting we do in the background.
Yeah. So I being in the military for a long time, you've seen people that go to the range and they're scared, right? Yeah. When they get that weapon. Because sometimes this might be the only time they touch a weapon is when they go to the range in the National Guard. The teaching aspect, I think, is important because breaking down whatever that fear is that they have in shooting a weapon is huge. And I think that's probably a big piece of what you're talking about is breaking that barrier that's like, oh my gosh, I can't score more than 10, 12 because I'm afraid. Yeah. How do you break that down in somebody? And I think that's probably part of that teaching too.
Yeah, it is. And I will say the one thing that I wish we as a military would break as a habit is utilizing these catchphrases. I can't stand this hip pocket catchphrases everyone carries around. Slow, smooth is fast. Hey, just slow down, get your hits, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so how about someone explain to me what slow, smooth is fast is supposed to mean, right? If I'm in a NASCAR race, do I go slower to go faster? No, you go faster to go faster, right? So what they really, and what I want to see kind of people understand is, hey, if you use catchphrases, it could mean anything. It could mean that guy can interpret it in 100 different ways. However, if you say, if you do this technique, if you do this, this will happen. That is a clear-cut kind of instruction you can give someone. And that's kind of like something I really hate, right? And what I see is, yes, the breakdown is important, but what that breakdown does is help me avoid utilizing just kind of superfluous phrases, to be honest with you. And that's what I'd like to see kind of more of. I'm sorry if I go.
Oh, no, you're all good. You're all good.
But I think we need to start saying, hey, what are you doing? Like, what are you seeing? When you break your shot, what are you seeing? How's your breathing? Do you know your holdovers? Where are you holding when you're at shooting a target at 100 meters, right? Stuff like that. Not just being like, well, basically boiling down to, well, just get good, man. Like, which is what I kind of see of it. So.
Yeah, it's kind of the thing we all talk about, I think, is the guard leaders, right? Is when people go to the range, we want to see more rounds down range versus less, just to get comfortable with it. And part of the guard problem, right? We just don't have the amount of time to go to the range and do that every year. So,
And on that, sir, I honestly, and that's the thing too, right? Is I know a challenge is ammo and money. Everyone's talking about it, right? But what I say is what they don't realize is that 90% of your shooting is developed through dry fire. Most of the shooting I do is never firing a round. It's in my home, just dry firing my weapons, practicing every mechanical skill, technical skill. The only thing you cannot practice is recoil, right? So what I say to people right now is I know there's a challenge of like, well, how can I get my soldier shooting or better shooting if we don't go shooting? I'd say draw a weapon, right? And I'd like to see, if anyone wants to test this out, please do. I want to test it out myself on soldiers is, hey, draw an M4. For 15 minutes, do dynamic dry fire. Don't just do diamond washer drills, right? Don't do that. Get him there, have him switch positions, have him put on their kit, change magazines, right? I know we have the time to do it. I mean, come on, we've all been a drill. Not every minute is filled with action and productivity, right? There's a lot of sitting around. Have him do that for 15 minutes a day. And then see how your soldiers improve when IWQ comes, or for our combat arms guys, when they go to the range and do their drills. Yeah. And I think they'll be shocked at the improvements they can get from just doing dry fire. So whenever someone says, rounds down range, honestly, it's an excuse, right? It really is. Like, the only thing you cannot practice is recoil. And if you're a long range shooter, but most of us aren't going out and shooting 1,000 meters. Okay,
exactly.
So
yeah.
I mean, no, he's 100% right. Dry firing is an easy way to improve because for the longest, I fought back against it. I just didn't want to do it until we shot our first match, and then that was when I really put in the time to dry fire daily. And then on the civilian side, my skill levels have improved drastically compared to where I was at before. So definitely, that is one thing we should try in the guards. When we have downtime, draw weapons, have your soldiers dry fire. Like you said, work the movesets in gear if you have to, change mags, all of that.
So those soldiers that they're vastly improving, or they're looking to become part of the team, how do they go about doing that?
So right now, there's kind of no official pipeline for that. It's kind of been pickup game because the official way we're going to be doing is a tag match. The top placers who do that will be the ones who get put on the team. And I believe we're still working that piece out. However, if they're interested, hey, my name's Edward O. You can find me on Teams. You can find me on Global. Reach out to me. It's not a straightforward process, but if you are serious about shooting, I want to get people shooting. That's the only reason I really was very passionate about this is, hey, how can I get trigger time for as much people as possible outside of just IWQs? So if they reach out to me, and then I will discuss with, the guys above me, of course, hey, how can I get these people shooting? There's a lot of interest in it. And I apologize if it seems like I have had some people talk to me about it. I apologize if it seems like I'm a little kind of dismissive of it. It's not my intention. It's just there's starting to be more people who know. So they ask, and I was like, well, we only got like 10 slots, man. Yeah. Right? I can't get all at once. Yeah.
All good. Yeah, no, I totally understand. I mean, it's a competition team. It's not just a free-for-all. So
absolutely.
I imagine hundreds of people can come to you, but you can only fill so many slots, and you want the best of the best for the team.
Exactly. It feels bad, though. It feels bad.
So, anything else you guys want to add?
Yeah. I know that right now, a lot of people kind of, the way they view marksmanship right now is kind of, in my opinion, a little skewed, right? A common answer I get, and we kind of meme it a bit, is it's going to get me killed in the streets, right? And I was like, well, if I do this, what if I go into a room and do this? We have people on our team that have done combat arms and deployed and are just high-end tactical dudes that are also high-end competition shooters. It's not going to get you killed, right? What it will make you do is it will make you fast and accurate. Don't be scared to go out there and compete. You're going to get beat by a dude who has never put on a uniform, and it's going to hurt your ego, but guess what? You're going to get better, and you're not going to get killed in the streets. And don't say you're not good enough to do it, right? When I first started, I got disqualified from a match because I slipped and pointed a gun at my leg. I'm just going to be honest, right? It happened. You're more than good enough. Those guys the civilians out there aren't there to prove something or to put you down. They're here because they're here to build a community. So if you have questions about that, once again, I put out my name and stuff, reach out to me. I would love to take you out to a match so you can see kind of the other side and develop, right? So that's all.
Specialist Hean, anything?
I don't have the answer.
Well, no, I appreciate you guys coming on. If you're interested in learning more about the Marksmanship team, we can definitely add the information in the notes. If you like the video, give it a like. Make sure to subscribe for future videos, and I appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sure.